earn $8,000 a month, and I give my parents $44,000 every month. But they always show more support to my younger brother. 3 days before my wedding, my parents made me cancel it because they planned to celebrate my brother's party on the same day. I refused, and my mom slapped me, shouting, "How dare you disobey me?" I left the house and decided to get revenge. The very next day, I gave them a big surprise. Now, they were the ones begging. I'm Lily, and I've always been the one holding my family together. As long as I can remember, I've been the one to help, whether it's money, emotional support, or anything else. I'm a financial analyst and earn around $88,000 a month. It's a good salary, but I work hard for it. I don't complain because I love my job, but sometimes it feels like I work not just for myself, but for my family too. Since I started working, I've been sending my parents $44,000 every month, without ever asking for anything in return. I wanted them to be comfortable and live well. I did this because I thought it was my responsibility as the older sibling. My younger brother, Ethan, never needed as much and always got everything handed to him. Ethan is 5 years younger than me, but it wasn't just the age difference. My parents treated him like he was perfect, giving him everything he wanted and always being there for him. Meanwhile, I was the one holding everything together, but no one noticed. When we were kids, my parents always gave him better gifts, more attention, and more praise. They talked about how smart and talented he was, and how he was going to do great things. Meanwhile, I was the practical one, the one expected to just do what was needed without making a fuss. I never questioned it, even when I felt ignored. I just kept giving and stayed out of the way. Over time, it became clear that Ethan was their favorite. The more I gave, the less they appreciated me. I didn't expect them to do anything big for me, but I did hope they'd notice. They never did. Everything was about Ethan, his dreams, his needs, even family celebrations. It was always about him, and I was left to handle everything else. It was frustrating, but I got used to it. I spent years building my life around what my family expected from me. They relied on me for everything, emotionally, financially, and in every other way. At first, I didn't mind, but over time it started to hurt. It felt like I was just a tool for them to use. I kept giving and giving, but they never said, "Thank you." Then there was David. I met him when I was 28 at a work event. He was different from anyone I'd ever met. He didn't want me to be anything other than myself. He accepted me without expecting anything and was kind, thoughtful, and supportive in a way I had always needed. As time went on, we became inseparable. We talked about everything, our dreams, struggles, and the future we wanted to build together. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just Lily the dependable one. I was Lily, the woman in love with someone who loved me back. David and I started planning our wedding about 6 months ago. It was the first thing I had done for myself in a long time. It was my moment, my chance to create something special. We found the perfect place near the water and started making plans. I was so excited, but my family's involvement was always in the back of my mind. Then, a few days ago, my mom called, and everything changed. I'll never forget that call. I was sitting in my living room, looking at the wedding details when my phone buzzed. It was my mom. She didn't even let me say hello. "Lily, I need you to cancel your wedding," she said. I was shocked. "What, Mom, what do you mean? It's Ethan's birthday that weekend," she said like it was normal. "We can't have your wedding on the same day. I want you to move it to next year. It's the only way." I couldn't believe it. "Mom, no, I can't. We've made all the plans. We've been looking forward to this." She didn't care. "You don't understand. Ethan's birthday is important. He's my son, and he needs us." I tried to explain. I told her it was my wedding, the biggest moment of my life, but she kept saying Ethan came first. Then she dropped the bombshell. "If you don't cancel it, Lily, you'll regret it. You have 24 hours. My heart raced. She was serious. I'd never felt so small or insignificant. After everything I had done for them, this was how they repaid me, by telling me to cancel my wedding for Ethan's birthday. I tried to hold back tears, but I was overwhelmed. I hung up, feeling numb. I realized nothing would ever change. No matter how much I gave, I would always come second to Ethan. I sat there in silence after the call, trying to make sense of what my mom had said. I felt crushed and confused. My whole life, I had given so much to my family, sacrificing my own needs because I thought that's what a good daughter did. And now, when it came to my happiness and my wedding, the most important day of my life, they wanted me to throw it away. I spent the next few hours pacing, replaying the conversation in my head. I kept asking myself, why is Ethan so special? Why is his birthday more important than my wedding? All I wanted was for my family to support me, but they couldn't even do that. After hanging up, I texted David. He was at work, but I needed to talk to him. He called me right away, and I could hear the concern in his voice. "Lily, what happened?" David asked, concerned. "What's going on?" "Mom called," I said. trying to hold back tears. She wants me to cancel the wedding. Ethan's birthday is on the same day, and she says I have to move it to next year. She says the wedding will ruin the family's plans. She gave me 24 hours to decide. I could hear the anger in his voice. That's crazy. You've been planning this for months. How can they ask you to cancel everything just because of Ethan's birthday? I don't know, I whispered. It's not just about the wedding, it's everything. I've spent my whole life being second to him. I've done everything for them, financially, emotionally, and this is how they repay me. David's voice softened. Lily, you don't deserve this. You've done so much for them, and they don't appreciate it. This is your moment. Don't let them take it away from you. I needed to hear those words. For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone truly saw me, not just as the dependable daughter, but as a woman with my own dreams. We spent the rest of the night talking, making plans. David didn't want me to cancel anything. He wanted to support me no matter what, but I also knew I couldn't let my parents control me anymore. I'd worked too hard for this day, and it was mine to have. The next morning, I called my mom, determined not to give in. I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. I took a deep breath before dialing her number. Mom, I'm not canceling the wedding, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've made my decision. This is my wedding day, and nothing is going to change that. She was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. You're making a huge mistake, Lily. You're being selfish. This wedding isn't even about you. It's about our family. But I guess that doesn't matter to you, does it? Her words hurt, but I wouldn't let them change my mind. I'm sorry, Mom, but this wedding is happening. I'm not going to give up my happiness for someone else. I've spent my whole life putting others first. It's my turn now. I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end, clearly furious. You'll regret this, Lily. You'll see. You're making a mistake. I stood my ground. I'm sorry, but I'm not backing down. This is what's best for me. And with that, I hung up. I was shaking. I had never stood up to my mom like that before. She had always had control over me, but in that moment, I realized something important. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need anyone's approval but my own. I didn't expect my mom to understand or be happy for me, but I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing this for myself. I needed to take back my life and finally put myself first. David and I started making new plans for the wedding. It was going to be smaller now, just close friends and a few family members who truly cared about us. No more trying to please my parents. No more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. The next day, I got a call from Aunt Lucy. She had heard from my mom about me calling off the wedding, but she knew that wasn't true. She was worried and wanted to make sure I was okay. I explained everything to her, and she immediately offered her support. You don't need people like that in your life, Lily, she said. Your wedding should be about your love, not about pleasing your parents. We'll help you. I couldn't believe the support I was getting from people who truly cared. It felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. That night, David and I started making calls to our closest friends and family, telling them the truth. I wasn't going to let my mom's lies ruin this. My wedding was happening, and I was going to make it everything I dreamed of, on my terms. As the days passed, I felt more at peace. No matter what my family did, I was going to make this work. The wedding became a whirlwind. What was supposed to be a celebration turned into a battle with my family, but I wasn't going to let their drama stop me. David and I decided to go ahead with a smaller ceremony, one that was more intimate and filled with people who truly cared about us. I worked hard to get everything together. It wasn't easy, but I wasn't going to let my family's issues take away my joy. I was no longer the person who apologized for everything. This was my time, about David and me, and our future. David was incredible. He helped with everything, from planning to making calls. He was by my side every step of the way. It felt amazing to have his full support. The wedding day arrived, and I was filled with mixed emotions. I was happy, but there was sadness too. The family I had always tried to support wasn't there, not because I didn't want them to be, but because they had chosen not to come. They'd chosen Ethan's birthday over my wedding. It hurt, but it also made me realize something important. The people who were there for me were the ones who truly cared. My Uncle Tom, Aunt Lucy, some close friends, and even David's family were there. It wasn't the huge event I'd once imagined, but it was perfect. It was honest. It was mine. As we exchanged vows, surrounded by those who mattered, I felt peace. I wasn't just marrying David that day. I was also marrying my independence, my strength, and my choice to finally put myself first. The ceremony was beautiful and moving. When David promised to love me for the rest of his life, I knew it was real. Afterward, we had a small reception at a local restaurant. There was laughter, food, and love. For the first time, I didn't have to hide my feelings. I wasn't trying to fit into the mold my family had made for me. I was free. That night, as I lay next to David, I realized things with my family would never be the same. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. I was done letting their manipulation control my life. The next morning, while getting ready to leave for our honeymoon, my phone buzzed with a message from my mom. She'd sent me about 10 texts, but I didn't want to look at them. Still, I opened one. It was a simple, angry message. "You've made a huge mistake, Lily. You've embarrassed the family. Don't expect us to help you when you fail." Her words hurt, but I didn't let them bother me. It was just more of the same. She was still trying to control me and make me feel guilty, but this time, I didn't care. I had made it clear to myself that I was done. I wasn't living for their approval anymore. I was living for myself. I deleted the message without responding. I wasn't going to let my mom's words drag me down anymore. David and I were starting a new chapter in Dallas, and I was determined to make it my own. We were free from the toxic hold of my family, and I felt lighter than I had in years. The wedding wasn't just a new beginning for David and me. It was the moment I chose myself and stopped living for their approval. In the days following the wedding, I felt a shift inside me. It wasn't just about getting married. It was about becoming a new version of myself, one who didn't need my family's approval. I had spent so long trying to meet their expectations, but now I was finally living for me. David and I moved to Dallas for a fresh start. We found a cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood, and slowly, we created the life I had always dreamed of. It was peaceful. It was ours. It was everything I had wanted. But even in this new chapter, the past still lingered. Just days after we settled in, I received another message from my mom. This time, it was even more aggressive. She accused me of abandoning my family and turning my back on them. Once again, she tried to make me feel guilty. I didn't even read the whole message. I already knew what it would say. The guilt trips, the manipulation, it was all too familiar. But this time, I was strong enough to ignore it. I deleted the message and moved on. For the first time, I didn't feel the pressure to please her. I knew I had made the right choice. David noticed the change in me. He saw the relief in my eyes. "I'm proud of you, Lily," he said one evening as we sat on the balcony of our apartment, gazing at the city lights. "You've come so far. You've built a life that's truly yours. You're finally free." His words hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't realized how heavy it had all been, the pressure to please my parents, the constant frustration of being second to Ethan, the emotional manipulation. But now, I was free. I didn't need their approval. I had my own happiness, and that was all that mattered. Weeks went by, and life felt more like what I had always imagined. David and I grew closer, talking about our hopes for the future, starting a family, building our careers, and always supporting each other. I knew I was where I was meant to be. Then one afternoon, I received a call from my cousin Jake. He had heard about everything that had gone down with my parents and called to apologize on behalf of the family. "I don't know why they did that to you, Lily," he said. "You deserve so much better. I'm really sorry." I hadn't expected an apology, but hearing it from Jake, someone who had always been kind to me, reminded me that there were still people who cared about me for who I truly was. As months passed, I rebuilt relationships with a few family members who had always supported me, Aunt Lucy, Uncle Tom, and a few good friends. These were the relationships that mattered. They hadn't tried to control me, and they didn't see me as just an emotional or financial support. These bonds grew stronger, but my relationship with my parents would never be the same. They had manipulated me into canceling my wedding, and they always placed Ethan above me. No matter how much I wanted to fix things, I knew I couldn't return to that toxic cycle. One day, I saw a message from my mom. "I miss you, Lily. Please call me." I stared at the screen, the familiar guilt creeping in, but I knew what I had fought for. I had chosen my happiness, my independence. I wasn't going back. I replied, "I'm happy with the life I've built. I can't go back to what it was. I need to move forward." In that moment, I felt peace. I had let go of the past, and as I looked at my life with David, I knew I was truly free. For the first time, I was living for myself, and that was worth everything.